Welcome to the Lion's Share podcast, where we break down today's most impactful research and bring fresh insights from the academic frontier straight to you.
I was looking at a pitch deck this morning, and I won't say whose, but I turned to the competition slide, and it was blank.
Oh, no.
Yeah, just a single bullet point that said, we are the first to market, no direct competitors. And I just had this visceral reaction. I almost closed the laptop right there. It's like watching a horror movie character walk into a dark basement. You just know it ends badly.
It usually does. In the venture capital world, and definitely in the academic literature, we actually have a name for that. We call it first-and-only-itis.
First-and-only-itis.
And frankly, it's usually fatal.
It feels like a delusion, the idea that you've stembled on this totally virgin market. But if we look at the source material for this deep dive, specifically Bill Aulet's Disciplined Entrepreneurship, the reality is so much harsher. As Art Trevethan puts it, and I'm paraphrasing a little here, if there's no competition, you better be darn sure you aren't hallucinating.
Trevethan's point is, it's like the splash of cold water every single founder needs. If you can't find anyone trying to solve the problem you're looking at, it usually means one of two things. Possibility A, you just haven't looked hard enough, or possibility B, you found a problem that doesn't actually exist, or at least one nobody's willing to pay to solve.
Right. The market is empty because there's no food there.
Exactly. So today we are going to really dissect the methodology for curing this condition. We're digging right into Aulet's framework, specifically looking at steps 11, 16, and 22. We need to talk about competitive positioning, the psychology of pricing, and this idea of the MVBP.
The MVP.
Which is a really significant evolution from the standard MVP everyone's so familiar with.
Okay, so let's start with the battlefield. Step 11 is charting your competitive position. Now, I've seen 1,000 of these competitive matrices. It's always a grid.
Yeah.
The startup's on the left, competitors on the right, and the startup has all these green check marks for every feature, while everyone else has red X's. It's meaningless.
It's worse than meaningless. It's actively misleading. That's what we call a feature war approach. You're just assuming the customer cares about the sheer number of features. Aulet completely flips this.
How so?
He argues that your competitive position, it's not defined by what you have, it's defined by what the customer prioritizes.
So instead of rows of features, we're looking at an X and a Y axis. But if we aren't putting, have Wi-Fi or battery life on the axis, then what goes there?
The top two priorities of your customer. And this is where most founders fail because they just guess. They assume the customer wants cheaper and faster.
The classics.
Right. But maybe the customer actually prioritizes reliability and data security. If you build your entire company around being fast, but the customer's number one anxiety is security, you're optimizing for the completely wrong variable.
Which implies you can't just sit in a room and draw this chart. You have to get out of the building.
Yeah, you absolutely have to do the primary market research. You have to talk to a customer and hear them say, I don't care how fast it is, I just can't afford for it to break. Boom.
There's your x-axis.
That's your x-axis, reliability.
Okay, so let's say we nail the axis. We have reliability and ease of use. We plot ourselves in the top right high on both. Who are we plotting against? Because if I have first-and-only-itis, I'm not plotting against other startups.
You're plotting against the biggest market shareholder in history.
Which is?
The status quo, the do-nothing option.
Human inertia.
It is the silent killer. Aulet makes such a profound point here. Often your customer isn't choosing between your SaaS platform and a competitor's SaaS platform. They're choosing between your platform and Microsoft Excel and a messy shared folder.
Or Post-it notes on a monitor.
Precisely. That is a competitor. And if the status quo sits high on the reliability axis because, hey, Excel never really crashes, and high on ease of use because they already know it, then you have a massive problem. You are not disrupting a vacuum. You are fighting a deeply entrenched habit.
This reminds me of that analogy in the startups.com piece about Battleship. You remember the game?
Oh, yeah. Battleship with the divider down.
Right. Most startups play with the divider up. They're just guessing where the market is. B4, miss. But rigorous competitive analysis, it takes the divider down. You see exactly where the opponent's ships are.
And that opponent is usually the customer's laziness.
Exactly.
Now, this is where the landscape has really shifted since Aulet first wrote the book. We have an article from Forbes in our stack that talks about the role of AI in all of this.
Okay.
Historically, finding out that a customer hates a competitor's customer service, for instance, that took weeks of interviews.
You have to read forums, Reddit threads, Glassdoor, all of it.
Right. But now You can deploy AI agents to scrape sentiment data across thousands of touch points in seconds. You can literally ask an LLM, what is the #1 complaint about existing solutions in the physical therapy management space?
And it will just tell you.
It will give you a synthesized answer based on actual user reviews. The AI acts as a radar. It highlights the open water on that chart. It identifies the unmet needs at scale.
So if the AI says 60% of reviews mention hidden fees, then transparent pricing becomes a viable axis for your chart.
You aren't guessing anymore.
But, and I want to play devil's advocate for a second, doesn't relying on AI risk a different kind of first-and-only-itis? I mean, what if the AI hallucinates a gap in the market? Or it's looking at old data? You can build a strategy on sand.
That's the danger. The Forbes article warns about hallucinated strategies. AI is a tool for synthesis, not for intuition. It can tell you what people said yesterday, but it can't sit across from a human being and read their body language when you propose a solution.
You still need that human touch.
You need that high-touch validation that Allett advocates for. Use the AI to frame the hypothesis, but use the human interview to validate it.
Which brings us to the ultimate form of validation. Money. Step 16 is setting your pricing framework. And I feel like this is where the rubber meets the road and where a lot of technical founders just skid off the track.
Because they default to cost plus.
Right. Cost me $5 to make, so I'll sell it for $7. It's safe. It ensures a margin. Why is Allett so against it?
Because it ignores the fundamental truth of commerce. The customer does not care about your costs. Costs are your problem. The customer only cares about value.
Yeah.
If you save a bank $10 million a year in fraud detection and it costs you $100 to run the server, should you charge $120?
No, you should charge $1 million.
Exactly. That's value-based pricing. You anchor the price to the value received, not the cost you incurred.
There's a great example in the book from Steve Walsh, the former CEO of PTC. He had this 10x rule.
Customers give us $2 and they make 10. It's a brilliant heuristic. It forces you to actually quantify the ROI for your customer. If you can't prove they'll make or save 5 to 10 times what they pay you, your value proposition is probably too weak.
But here's the tension, right? Especially for early-stage ventures, we all know about lighthouse customers. These are the early adopters, the high-status clients you need to validate your product. The temptation is to just give them the product for free.
It's a huge temptation.
Or at a massive discount just to get their logo on your website.
And that is a trap. It's a deadly one. Allett is very, very specific about this. You can be flexible on payment terms. Maybe you waive the upfront integration fee. Maybe you delay the first invoice for 60 days. But you never, ever lower the recurring price or give the core product away.
Because price is a signal.
It's a signal that the value is zero. But more importantly, you are polluting your data. If a lighthouse customer takes your product just because it's free, you haven't validated a business model. You've just validated that people like free stuff.
That's not a business. That's a hobby.
Exactly.
If you aren't charging, you're testing a hobby.
Yeah.
That leads perfectly into step 22, the MVBP.
The minimum viable business product.
That extra B does a lot of heavy lifting. I mean, we've all heard of the MVP, that's Lean Startup 101, build the smallest thing possible. But also seems to think the standard MVP definition is, well, too loose.
He argues an MVP is often just a product prototype. It tests functionality. Does the code work? Does the button click?
Right.
An MVBP tests the business. It has 3 strict conditions. 1, the customer gets value. 2, the customer pays for it. And 3, it starts a feedback loop.
It's that second condition payment that stops people cold.
It's the terrifying one. But think about the style-up case study. This is one of my favorite examples in the literature because it completely demystifies what a tech startup actually means.
Kendall Orbst and Ryan Choi. They wanted to build a fashion recommendation engine. The Silicon Valley approach would have been, raise $2 million, hire a team of ML engineers.
And build a recommendation algorithm.
Right.
And they didn't do that. They engaged in what we call concierging.
Which sounds fancy, but let's be real about what that actually was. It was manual labor.
It was a grind. They set up a landing page, they collected email addresses and style preferences, and then every single night they sat down, looked up the local weather for their users, looked at the users' preferences, and manually found an outfit image that matched. Then they composed an email and hit send.
There was no algorithm. The AI was 2 founders with coffee and spreadsheets.
Exactly. But to the user, it looked like magic. They got a personalized recommendation, they opened the email, they clicked buy, Style Up validated the value, the open rates and the payment, the affiliate clicks, before they wrote a single line of complex code.
This is the classic Wizard of Oz strategy. Don't look behind the curtain. But I have to ask, is there an ethical line here? If I'm selling an AI solution and it's actually a room full of interns, isn't that just fraud?
That's a valid question, and we see this debate a lot. But in the context of an MVBP, the question is the customer getting the promised result?
Okay.
In StyleUp's case, the promise was a good outfit recommendation. They delivered that. The mechanism of delivery, human versus machine, that's an operational detail, not a value proposition detail.
So as long as the output is valid, the how can be manual until you scale.
Precisely. You are validating the economic buyer. If a human won't pay for the result produced by a human, they certainly won't pay for the result produced by a machine. I mean, Wealthfront did the same thing. They're a robo-advisor. But in the early days, they had actual financial advisors manually moving money around to prove the model.
It's all about stripping away the risk. And that brings us to the other case study, home team therapy. This one is less about faking it and more about stripping it down.
Tim Fu. This is a classic case of an engineer falling in love with a solution. He wanted to use the Microsoft Kinect. Remember the motion tracking camera?
I do. It was revolutionary at the time.
He wanted to build a system where physical therapy patients would do exercises in front of the Kinect, and the system would give real-time feedback on their form. Your knee is too far forward, that kind of thing.
That's a sexy pitch.
Yeah.
Gamifying rehab.
Yeah.
VCs would love that.
They do, but the technical risk is enormous. Computer vision is hard. So Tim had to ask himself, what is the core value here? Is it the motion tracking? Or is it simply the connection between the doctor and the patient's home routine?
So he pivoted to the MVBP.
He realized he could deliver 80% of the value with simple video. He built a platform where doctors assigned instructional videos and patients logged their completion. No sensors, no AI, no Kinect.
He removed the cool part.
He removed the expensive and risky part, and guess what? Doctors paid for it. They paid because the problem wasn't, I need motion tracking. The problem was, I have no idea if my patients are even trying to do their exercises. The video platform solved the compliance problem.
Yeah, once you have cash flow from that video platform, then you can fund the R&D for the Kinect version.
You earn the right to build the cool tech by selling the boring solution first.
This has huge implications for corporate innovation, too. I mean, we talk about startups, but what about entrepreneurs inside a Fortune 500?
Honestly, they struggle with this even more.
Why? They have all the resources.
That's the problem. Resources are a curse in the validation phase. If you're at a big corporation, you have the budget to build the Taj Mahal version immediately. You don't need to concierge it because you can just hire a vendor.
So you skip the discipline.
You skip the learning. You build a perfect, shiny product, launch it with a big marketing campaign, and then crickets. Nobody shows up. We see this constantly in corporate innovation labs. They simulate the theater of innovation, the sticky notes, the bean bags, but they don't simulate the scarcity.
So if you're running an innovation team, you should artificially constrain your budget.
Absolutely. Force the team to sell the product before it exists. Force them to get a signed letter of intent or a pre-order. If they can't get a customer to commit budget to the idea, why would you give them budget to build it?
That is tough love. But it saves millions.
It's the only way to ensure you're not just building vanity projects.
Okay, we've covered a ton of ground here. We've gone from the delusion of no competition all the way to the rigor of the MVBP. I want to try and synthesize this for the listener who's maybe driving to work right now, thinking about their side hustle. What are the brass tacks?
I'd boil it down to three distinct shifts in mindset. First, redefine competition. Stop looking for feature parity. Look for the status quo. If you can't articulate why someone should stop doing nothing and start using you, you don't have a value proposition.
Right.
Second, price on value, not cost. Use that 10x rule. If you aren't comfortable charging a premium, it's likely because you don't believe you're creating enough value. That's a product problem, not a pricing problem.
Okay. And third?
Third is the MVBP standard. Don't just build a prototype, build a business transaction. If money hasn't changed hands, you are still in the realm of theory.
And on the concierging front?
Embrace the manual grind. Be the algorithm before you build the algorithm. It is not about tricking the customer. It's about validating that the service is actually worth paying for. If you can make one customer happy manually, you might have a business. If you can't, no amount of software is going to save you.
It's interesting. We started with first-and-only-itis, which is basically an ego trip. I'm the only genius who saw this. And we're ending with concierging, which is the opposite of ego. It's humility. It's doing the unscalable work to serve one person.
That's the paradox of entrepreneurship. You need the ego to start, but you need the humility to learn. The disciplined entrepreneurship framework is essentially a mechanism to force that humility upon you before the market forces it upon you in a much more painful way.
Well said. I want to leave the listeners with one final thought. You mentioned earlier that competition actually validates a market.
Yes, and I want everyone listening to look at their competitor slide again. If it's empty, don't celebrate. Panic. And then ask yourself, am I solving a problem that is so obscure that no one else cares? Or am I just afraid to look at the status quo because I know it's a giant I can't beat?
The giant of good enough.
Exactly. Find the giant, acknowledge the giant, and then figure out the one specific axis where you can beat him. That is where your business lives.
Fantastic stuff. I'm going to go reevaluate my own projects now. I have a feeling I'm charging too little and building way too much.
Aren't we all?
Thanks for tuning in to this deep dive into disciplined entrepreneurship. Keep testing, keep charging, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thanks for tuning into the Lion's Share podcast. If you enjoyed today's discussion, share it with a friend and join us next time for more ideas worth talking about. We'll see you next time.